Hey, it's Doom here from Dungeons and Doom Biscuit. One half of the team powering DungeonSwag.com. And I have one of the empty DungeonSwag boxes that I have removed my miniatures from, and I'm going to use that in today's craft. You get a nifty box like this every month, and I thought to myself, man, I'm going to use all these boxes for stuff. So we're going to take it, and we're going to trim it out with some cardboard. And give it some some 3D features. And since these are all the same size, and I, have a, they're not going. I'm not sending them back to Tom. When I'm done with them, that'd be silly. Tom lives 6 hours away from me, so what I want to do is use them as configurable boxes that I can stack and use in different ways. So that's what we're going to do. And I'm going to make the sides a little different. I will make more than just one side, like not just one side in the top, the decorative. I will do it so that no matter which way we throw this down, whether we throw it this way or this way or this way or whatever, it can be used as a stackable piece. And then those little bridges that we made last time can kind of be a part of that as well. Maybe I'll make a couple more bridges. Nobody seemed to watch the bridge videos that much, and that's fine. I don't know what people want to see and don't want to see, and nobody's telling me, so I'm just kind of doing the best I can here. If I see some people like the building with the pipe on it, we can do some stuff like that. But that was like, this stuff is not like intense crafting stuff, guys. This is like pretty boring, low key stuff. This is not that great. So but whatever, I'll try to make what people like. And if there's anything that anybody likes or they want me to expand on or do something different with, just let me know and we'll try it. I mean, I'm not the phenomenal crafter that some of you guys have seen on YouTube. There are some people out there that are just so next level, it's insane. I am not one of those people. I'm just like the crafting dude. I'm not the crafting master. Our Star Wars campaign, which it's not really a Star Wars campaign, it's got a lot of Star Wars-esque stuff in it. But our space opera campaign has been super fun. Last night we played pretty late, and it was so fun. My party was so exciting. They made such fun decisions and did such cool stuff. I really, really enjoyed it. And I'll tell you what, I wish we could just play all the time. I don't think I've laughed that much in a while. I mean, there was some serious stuff going on, but just like the one guy's an Ewok Jedi, and he ran and jumped in front of this Mandalorian to save her, and he instantly got knocked down with a crit. And the party was in despair. Oh, and the medic droid, which my oldest son plays, was dragging people back into this hallway while they were fighting a bunch of... the miniatures were stormtroopers, but they were, in my campaign, Last Order troopers, which is this resurgence of Imperial control that they're trying to have. So it was just like funny over and over and over again as the shenanigans ensued, and I had a really good time. I really like that stuff a lot. It's just silly and wholesome, and there may or may not have been some bad die rolls that resulted in people using some potty mouth talk. The Ewok Jedi, I know that there was a moment where he was rather unhappy with his situation. So, character customization in my game is largely based on feats. They're not called feats, but if you play D&D, you'll recognize them as feats. And there are feats to increase your health and pretty much all your statistics across the board get, besides your 4 main attributes and your proficiencies, which are like skills. All of that gets affected by feats. So it's super funny when somebody has made a design flaw in their character and finds it out in combat and goes, oh, I should have done that instead. And then they try to work a deal. Well, what if I got rid of this and this? Can I say that I took this instead? No. The system's very open. Next time you come, have a different plan. We'll figure it out. Learn what you want to learn. But for now, you're done. That's you. That's the choices you made. And I love it. I think it's a lot of fun. And the combat last night was so entertaining. They have had a couple lucky fights, so I tried to adjust the difficulty to make it so they weren't just like rolling over stuff, but mostly it's bad die roll on the bad guys that's causing problems, or really good rolls on theirs. And that's the thing with RNG from die roll. You're going to have, it's going to go both ways, and eventually it'll change directions. But I was trying to make things a little more manageable. And what ended up happening, though, was in my attempt to make things manageable, I made this really cool boss who could fly lightsabers around him. He had 4 lightsabers that he could whip them around with the Force and control them. And he killed himself because I have a rule. A double 20 is automatically a kill, and a double 1 is automatically a suicide. And it adds this whole like wild card aspect to your game, so that the unbeatable dragon could, in theory, the unbeatable dragon, listen to me, the unbeatable dragon, in theory, could be beaten with a double 20. And the invincible hero, who the bad guys can't hit because he's sunk all his money into defense, or hit points, or whatever it may be, all his attributes and money are geared for that, all his but all his point buys in that can still be defeated by a double 1, or if the enemy double 20 him, I guess. So it was a really fun thing. There was laughing and yelling and carrying on as the big bad double 1'd. And when he double 1'd, it pretty much made everybody jump up and down, because when they saw in his first turn, he started whipping the lightsabers, 2 of the lightsabers around. And then in his next turn, he pulled out 2 more and started whipping them around. And this guy's, basically you can't even get close to him. And then the next round, he goes to force scream at him, and that was that. He was done for. So it was nice. It was a good time. A real good time. We had my beautiful wife made spaghetti for dinner for everybody, and it was a cheap, nice D&D dinner, but it was delicious. And I probably ate way more than I should have, because let's be honest, a little bit of pasta goes a long way. And generally, if you eat a bowl of pasta and take a break and come back later, you won't be hungry. But the 4 cheese sauce she used was super tasty. My second oldest son, and this is why when I talk about having this like such an old group, I really do, because one of my best friends in the whole world that I grew up with, my 2 oldest sons, my wife, an older D&D player I met on Tabletop Crafters Guild on Facebook years and years back. That's the core of my group. And then my wife has a friend that plays most times. She wasn't there last night. And my brother used to play. He's since not been playing. He met a lady, and that became kind of his thing. But For the most part, my group hasn't changed much except for some characters here and there. And there's been, like my college roommate, Paul, who is still a really good friend of mine, played for about a year, and that was super cool. But, yeah, my group has been pretty constant for 16-ish years. Now, I'll tell you, my older sons weren't playing then through all that time because they are not... they're not that old. They're in their early 20s. So, I mean, they've been playing for pretty much since they've been in high school. Because when you have kids, it's better to run a kids D&D, to have a D&D specifically designed for children where they can be more creative and more thoughtful and not have to follow such strict rule sets, because you want them to enjoy their time, and you want it to also be something that they can learn from, and you want to be able to implement math into it as a lesson, and problem solving and stuff. So when you're running a game for adults, you are more so doing a collaborative story. When you're running a game for children, you're giving a lesson. Okay? And that's just my opinion. You do whatever the heck you want. It is actually a free country. But I would say, yeah, if you're going to run for kids, don't run an adult version. Roll a very simplified, high rolls do well, low rolls do poorly kind of deal. Keep it very, very basic. So my younger sons now are 6 and 8. And so my older boys' mother, my first wife, has kids that are a little bit older than my boys that I have. And they come over, and the 4 boys, her 2 sons to her new husband, and my sons to my wife, my second wife, who's my wife now. And I run kids D&D, and I have some really basic character sheets that don't have an enormous amount of data on them. They have like a couple main skill things on there, and it has no feats or anything. It's just, whatever special thing you can do. Your attacks, your damage, your armor class, stuff like that. So it's very hit points, the normal gist of what you need to make the character. And I'll tell you what, I really even enjoy DMing for them. I love seeing all the creative things they do. I love that my ex-wife and I are separated, but our children can get along and have a nice time. And one of the things I think probably my ex-wife missed the most when she left was my D&D. Because she loved playing D&D. I was in the Army, and she would be at home scouring the books, learning about D&D while I was at work. And she could min-max like you would not believe. She oftentimes led the party. And I had seasoned players, but just her immense amount of knowledge about how the game worked and how the character classes, different abilities worked and stuff, she often took over. Now, I don't play any licensed role-playing products anymore. The D&D thing, I just kind of feel like the system... I didn't like 4th edition. I love 3.5. Still to this day, I love 3.5. I didn't like 4th edition, and I felt like 5th edition was a little lackluster. And I feel like it is more based on selling lots of books than recreating the glory of my childhood, where we ran off following wizards that would give us swords that sucked the souls out of our enemies and stuff, like the stuff we played when we were kids. I feel like these newer editions aren't geared towards that kind of insane, silly time madness. There's too many things that get in the way of doing that, too many rules that stop you from having that kind of fun. And so what I decided to do was to take a baseline system with less statistics and a point-buy system, no levels, no experience. Fights are worth a certain amount of purchase point buys, and that's just how I do it. And it seems to be, thus far, working great. Now, I tested my modern one already, and that went awesome. And it only really stopped because one player was a jerk, and he's somebody who's not in our group anymore. He crossed some lines, and he can't be friends with us because he was inappropriate with married people and stuff. Made advances that were unwelcome. And if you ever have problems in your group like that, you got to nip that shit in the bud. Excuse my French. You got to nip that stuff in the bud immediately. You know, your D&D group is a place where people have to feel like they can come and have a good time, and there can't be awkwardness and infighting and drama, because that destroys the dynamic of them being a team. And it starts creating sub-factions. And if you're the DM, you got to step up. You got to say, hey, you know, I'm the adult here that runs this game, or the kid here that runs this game, depending on who you are. The man, the woman, the child, the whatever in between. And that's not okay in my home or where we're playing at. In this group, that's not okay. And how forcefully you do that or have to do that, I don't know. I mean, it depends on the situation, I'm sure. For me, it was, you know, the guy was a fella who just was an outsider we didn't know, and he was brought in by somebody, and that somebody left, and then he just kind of stayed behind, and, you know, we were there for him. We bought him presents on holidays. He didn't seem to have friends or anything. And we just kind of took him in and made him part of our little family, and then he really crossed the lines and had to be dealt with. So he's gone. And you might have to lose a friend over it, you know. You might, it really depends, or you might have to quit playing D&D if it comes to that. Now, I don't imagine there's too many versions of a world where you'd have to quit playing D&D because one person's a jerk. But it could happen. Toxic people are everywhere. Toxic people, that term's changed a lot over the years. You know, now everybody's toxic for something or the other, but it used to be that was a term we reserved for the really baddies in the world. The people that were just, you know, everything they touched was poison, and they destroyed lives and friendships, and these were not people that just did this generally because their personality was bad. It was because they were, you know, bad people. But now, you know, you're toxic if you just, you know, have a negative impact on those around you, even if it's not deliberate. And I understand that, and I'm not dogging on that. I mean, it is what it is. I've been called toxic myself even, and I actually really go out of my way to try to be a positive person. I'm a peaceful person, and I have chosen that in my post-army life that violence is the absolute last option I will resort to. There was a time where I thought violence was all right, and I've tried to step away from that. And I'd like to think that we all do as we get older. You got your yahoos out there, of course. All right, so we got a decoration on that side. Let's do something on this side. Let's do, there we go. We'll do something like that. Yeah, you can't have toxic players. And here's another thing, and this has become a problem in my group. I've always had a rule, because people are disruptive and inattentive, and they slow down gameplay for others, and they don't pay attention to what's going on. They have to ask. I've had a rule: no cellular devices at the table, unless you're using like a spell book or something on your phone or a tablet. I prefer you don't bring your electronics. And that, for the most part, has been pretty good. There are occasionally little problems from that, but it's not nothing that can't be dealt with. I assure you, it's just. See, occasionally we have somebody sasses. You cannot have. It's hard enough to run a campaign or even multiple campaigns and have people back talking and arguing. So I implore you, if you have a player that's always arguing, that even if they're a close friend of yours or a family member of yours, that outside the game you pull them to the side and explain that their attitude and behavior and argumentativeness is creating a problem. Either it's making it less enjoyable for you to run the game, or it's making it less enjoyable for other players, or maybe both, depending, and that they need to knock their stuff off. You got to stand up to bad players. Not bad players, I'm sorry, bad personalities. To protect your group, and you'll have a 16-year group. And I'll tell you what, even though some of the group is my actual family, or friends, or a combination of the two, they all know that I would never do anything to any of them to try to make them not have fun, or to try to make them not have the same opportunities as every other person playing. That's important too. Make sure your group knows you're on their side. Maybe when it's time to run bad guys, you're not, but in general you are. So our box is starting to look pretty good here. Now, originally I was thinking we could come back and cover up all this loose corrugated. But now I don't think I want to. I think that I'm kind of digging what's going on here. So let's see if we can't make this work without doing anything too fancy. Now remember what I said about we want to be able to flip this different ways and it still looks like something. And I mean that. We want to really try to make this stand out as something useful. Oh. And this is just the first one. You know, we can do more of these. I want to. I have plenty of these boxes, I know. I know my little boys have them for like separating some action figures and stuff, but for the most part, I have access to lots of these. You know, we could do over here. Let's do like a cut that badly. We could do like a computer screen on the side here, maybe. Throw a couple buttons on here, some rivets. Oh my gosh, this thing is like perfect for rivets. We can just throw rivets in every direction. I love rivets. But speaking of throwing rivets everywhere, let's instead grab some buttons and do some button stuff. Because I love button stuff. Now, what I would normally suggest is that you start on the outside edges and work your way in. But since I'm not actually looking for any kind of solid uniformity here, I am not super worried about it. This just is a fun, quick, 25-30 minute craft. We'll prime it with a color of some sort. And then we'll come back and paint it. And that hopefully won't take too much more than, I don't know, 25-30 more minutes. We don't want to go too long with these. I don't know if I've told you guys. Yeah, I told you guys. My attention span is not amazing. So I try to gear my videos to where I'm still interested in what I'm doing, and maybe some of you that are like me and lose interest can still want to pay attention. I also kind of decided I'm going to talk a little bit more about non-crafting stuff, because you guys aren't here for a class, I'm pretty sure. And if you are here for a class, let me know and I will do tutorial type stuff. But right now, I'm not really thinking of these as tutorials. I'm thinking of these as like just fun, fun time together, making something for my Star Wars table. I really want to thank everybody for watching. I'll tell you, I had no thoughts that people were going to come back and, after I haven't made a video in like 6 years on this channel, I hadn't really thought that anybody was going to come and watch. And I just am amazed at how many people are tuning in, and some of you that have reached out to me from my old Facebook group, but you know me from that. I don't have that group anymore. I got rid of it, but I'm amazed at how amazing it is to see old names popping up and making enjoyable comments to me about what I'm doing, because I don't do this, for any reason besides just to craft and have fun and maybe inspire people to do a little bit of me time crafting. That's why if this never goes anywhere and I only have 15 subscribers or whatever, that's okay. I have a job, you know what I mean. I have stuff going on in my life that I don't need to. Alright, so I use this over and over and over again, and it's starting to get pretty wonk on both sides. So I'm just gonna, well, I can't use super glue on that, so, here's what we can do. Okay, so here's the deal. Speed paints, contrast paints, whatever it may be, glues, stuff like that. If you don't want it absorbing into something, and you toss down a piece of masking tape, like coated masking tape, it'll protect what you're working on. So really, I never even need to dirty anything. I could just be putting masking tape on this all the time, and I'd be fine. And I do that a lot, especially with the speed paints. But this is not one of those moments. I need to use some super glue for sure. So if everybody's watching, I'm just going to do some rivet work. I love these little gem beads. Still using these. And I told you guys, if you've been watching, the secret to making these look uniform as if they've been bolted upon construction is to start on the edges and pick an equidistant, make them equidistant from the edges of the piece, and then center them based off that. Not what I did with the buttons, that I wasn't trying for a uniform look, but those were added decorations afterwards, perhaps. These are not. These are original design rivets that were put on this building. Okay, I think I wanted to do a computer screen there, so let's get our... back to riveting. Oh my gosh, I'm so corny. We could totally name an episode. This episode is riveting, and just like rivet the crap out of something. Nobody would watch it. I would watch it if somebody else made it. So one of you guys make that so I can watch it, because I honestly can't bear to watch myself craft, because all I do is criticize my work, even though I tell myself every time I'm setting out to make something quick that everybody can just do with little resources. I don't want people spending money unless you're buying DungeonSwag miniatures, or maybe the first book when it drops. But I don't want people spending needless money. I want you guys to spend your money, your entertainment money, on things that enrich your lifestyle, on things that give you something to do on your days off, and something to enjoy whenever, Don't focus on buying a bunch of stuff that you don't need. And that's what a lot of people do with crafting, is they buy a lot of stuff they don't need. And that's gross, man. Don't do that. Don't be gross. Alright, I put the scissors away, didn't I? I sure did. Alright, so we're going to make a little TV screen for that panel. We're just going to dab a little biscuit of hot glue on there. And then you can, depending on what's going on, you can pretend this is a public access computer, or something they have just for people to look at the news as they walk down your futuristic fantasy street, or whatever you want it to be. You can have it just be a piece of interest to look at, and you have no plot behind why it's there. And maybe you've turned the building in such a way that no one can see it. So, that's alright, man. Woman, child, or anything in between. So let me tell you, the reason I keep weirding out when I say man is because my generation, Generation X, just said a lot of things and had a lot of, I don't know if vernacular is the right term, but we had a lot of things we said. So just call them, even men and women, dude or man, was acceptable in our time. And our time is gone. And now it's the next generation's time, and the generation after that's time. So as I try to, kind of let the new generations take the lead and show us what they want, a lot of people are very resistant to that. It's just not a big enough part of my day that I care. But I care enough that I don't want to start fights, or it's not the hill I want to die on. I know some people are super against the world changing, and I don't blame you, because sometimes we change too far too fast. It's dangerous. But I want to thank everybody for watching, especially how much you guys have been watching. It's amazing. I love it. I'm going to prime this bad boy up. I'm going to take a little break to do some straightening up here, and then I'm going to come back and we're going to paint it. It's going to be awesome. We're going to have fun. I'm so glad you guys are here with me on this journey, and see you in a little bit.